So John approached us and said, look, would we be interested in managing the ventilators once it got into the airports? And we were delighted to have the opportunity, because at the time, because of the COVID virus, at the time we had capacity both in our facilities and also with our people. So it was a great opportunity for us. So we were delighted with it.
Hello and welcome back to the Architects of Business, made in partnership with EY Entrepreneur of the Year, where you will hear the inspirational stories of some of Ireland's leading entrepreneurs. I'm Sonya Lennon. I'm delighted to be your host, broadcasting remotely from my own home at this time. This is the first episode of our third season, and I'm delighted to be speaking with Sean Sheehan, CEO of Wisetek, now a major global player in IT asset repurposing. He recently repurposed his own production lines to create much needed ventilators. It is a great story. If you haven't already done so, please do hit subscribe to get another great story into your feed every 2 weeks.
The Architects of Business with EY Entrepreneur of the Year, telling the inspirational stories behind Ireland's most successful entrepreneurs.
Sean Sheehan from Wisetek, thank you so much for joining me on Architects of Business. This is the first of our new series, and it's no accident that you're here in the shadow of the COVID challenge. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, well, we're based in Cork, and about 12 years ago, I used to work for a multinational, and I used to manage their take-back programs as regards leasing or coming off lease, and it was classed as a nuisance at the time because they had a lot of growth in their business. So I saw that as being an opportunity. So I left and set up Wisetek, and went back with services. So I managed that part of their process, and we kind of moved on.
So this is all the sort of the runoff equipment that nobody wanted anymore. It was dead in everybody else's lives.
It was trade-in. It was coming off lease. It was relatively new. It was in some cases only 2 or 3 years old. So it was still good equipment. But I saw that as being an opportunity for repurposing and put it back into the marketplace is one reason. And also it can be used as upgrades. It can be used as spares. And you can break it down into components. And there's a market out there for components. And also, you can get smelted down into precious metals, and it goes back into the supply chain again. So it made an awful lot of sense at the time, to go
you.
this route. Well,
not to everybody, but to you. And that's I suppose what is key. And I suppose with Wisetek now, that idea of finding value in waste is at the core of everything that you do.
Yeah, you can call it waste. Like we don't call it waste anymore. We see it more as opportunity. So the world has changed. It's like a car. So people want to buy new cars, but there's also a big market out there for second-hand cars. So and that's the market that we work in is a second-hand area where we can put it back into the supply chain. Not everybody can afford the latest and greatest. So there's a huge market out there for people that are quite happy to get something that's a couple of years old, and even something that's 5 generations old. You have developing countries that are quite happy, and that's all they can afford. And they need that for their own education.
And I'm going to come to that because you. One of the things that I find fascinating about your story is the breadth of your ambition, the breadth of the scope of the company. But I'd like to go back a few steps first and have a little chat about little Sean when he was growing up. What was it? What was the environment? What was the inspiration that allowed you to see opportunity in a way that other people can't? Because that's gold.
Well, I suppose I came from a farm, so from a very early age, back then, a lot of it was very manual labour. So we were taught to work hard at that stage. And I think we were kind of a very tight-knit community as well. So we're down in Milford, and there's a very strong GA down there. So from a very young age, you were introduced to teams, and you learn how to lose, how to win, and that's great education and a good foundation for anybody. So
and funny that comes through. It's no surprise that comes through very strongly in a lot of the alumni of the Entrepreneur of the Year program with EY. That team sports piece is vital to as a life lesson, if you like.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Certainly for kids growing up nowadays, it's invaluable the experience you get there. because you win together as a team, you lose as a team. You need to strategize as a team. As Roy Keane says, fail to plan to fail. So it makes an awful lot of sense, and it's very similar to business.
And did you see your farming family as entrepreneurial?
Oh, absolutely. I think like the six of us there's five of us kind of run our own business. Like between farming and between different aspects of business out there, like we all have to work for ourselves.
And it's kind of the ethos in farming of if you don't do it, it won't be done.
Oh, absolutely. We had to do it. And it's all seasonal, like, so the different jobs, different, it wasn't the same job the whole time. So in the summertime, you were out there with the hay and the straw and all that. While the winter time, it was more inside in the sheds and that kind of stuff. So it was different, but it was good. It was good for the health as well,
And before you found yourself working for a multinational, what was the journey to get to that point? What happened when you finished school?
Well, I worked for another multinational before that. I started off with Wang in Limerick, so I worked with them for a good few years. And then I went to Cork, and I worked with EMC there for a good few years as well, for 16 years. And then I went out on my own. But I spent three
So
and a half years
did
in
you?
Australia as well.
Oh,
Before that.
fantastic! And did you skip college?
No, I was due to do a technician course actually, but and around the week that I was supposed to start the course, I actually had an accident in a motorbike. I actually hit a cow. I hit a cow, if you don't mind. So that put me out of action for 6 months. So I never really caught up in the course afterwards.
I'm not even going to ask how the cow fared.
No, the cow came out the best.
Okay. Good news.
Put it that way, yeah.
And how do you quantify your impact then, your positive impact on the environment? Because that must be a big part of what you do.
Well, everybody's talking about the circular economy, and that's huge. Like we're going to start running out of raw material. You can't keep extracting ore from the earth. So, because first of all, it's going to run out, and now it's getting very expensive as well. And like you have ready-made, material out there with your e-waste, which is perfect for this model, and it's far cheaper to actually mine e-waste and get it back into precious metal than it is actually ore. And it's a lot better for the CO2 and all that as well, because you use a lot less. So it makes total sense. So like there's a lot of talk around this, and it's starting to get more traction, and people and countries are actually starting to see this now, and they're constantly looking at how to manage their e-waste streams and make sure it gets properly used. Like there's a stat out there that 20% of e-waste is refined and recycled correctly. So that's you have 80% opportunity out there.
Amazing.
And that's what we're looking at.
Love that. So go back to Thailand, 2012. Is that right? Yeah, 2012. So that was a big marker. How did that come about?
Yeah, again, it was one of our customers approached us and said, look, any chance you could look at Asia market, that we need a presence out there, because we don't want to be hauling the stuff all the way back because it's very expensive to get on. So we want to get it triaged out there, only bring back the good stuff, and the stuff that needs to go for smelting, which a lot of this is done in Asia anyway, is just keep that within region. So we started looking out there, and we looked at different areas. So we looked at Hong Kong, and we looked at China itself, and we looked at different areas. And then one of our partners said we should look at Thailand, because it's a very friendly to do business out there. We were able to locate in a free zone, which is that you can bring a product in and you can ship it out without paying duties, which is a long shebang. And it's also the biggest port in Thailand. So it made total sense in a region like that. So from the time we got the get-go, it took us 15 weeks for our first truck to roll into Thailand, which is incredible for Asia, because at that time it took, I think it was around 6 months alone to get your name registered in China.
That's extraordinary.
So it worked very well for us. But we work a lot with Enterprise Ireland, and they were very helpful, because they gave us the name of companies that were already set up in Thailand. So we were able to learn from their mistakes. And that was a big help to us. So we were able to use their legal folks and their accountants that they had set up already. So that was a big help, because everything was in Thai. So we need to understand that. And there's a lot of office and documentation to be done. So they were able to do all that on our behalf. So it worked very smooth for us. A lot smoother than we expected.
Excellent.
And we've been
But
there
that's not the only. Yeah, that's not the only international center that you have. You are truly a global company. Tell us a little bit about your other hubs.
Yeah, so we started looking at the US market, and the US was a bit behind Europe, but they were starting to get ready for it. Again, it was the same situation. Legislation was coming in our favor. People were beginning to understand the circular economy and the need for this. Companies were getting worried about their branding. What was finishing up? Was it finishing up in China, where you have the kids and with their frying pans and they're trying to get the lead out of equipment or the gold? And they could see that, okay, that we need to be careful of this. There was a few programs down there that showed this type of activity was going on. So companies are starting to get nervous, but also that there's a financial gain here for companies that they didn't realize was there as well. And the fact that you can trace their product now from the time it leaves their facility is a big help and a big, so like we saw that opportunity. So like we've 5 facilities in the States now because the States are so vast. There's no such thing as a small job in the States. Everything it's a big job. So so the 5 facilities are strategically placed that we can cover the landmass of the US, and it made a lot of sense
Fantastic.
for us.
Sean, it's extraordinary. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about future trends, the future of Wisetek, the culture of Wisetek. And I hope that somewhere on your body you have the word efficiency tattooed, because that's what you definitely are.
Thank you.
So, Sean, you find yourself in a global company of your own making. And if anybody can say one thing about you, it's that you have a nose for opportunity. So I suppose it's no mistake and no accident that in the face of COVID, you found a huge opportunity.
Yes, yeah, it just happened to fall our way. Like there's 2 brothers out there, 2 Quirks. You have Robert Quirk of Rocco Media and John Quirk of SA Partners. And they had connections in China, and they were able to source ventilators. Now, a couple of weeks previously, John had actually visited our facility as part of a lean manufacturing program, and he kind of liked what he saw. So John approached us and said, look, we would be interested in managing the ventilators once it got into the airports. And we were delighted to have the opportunity because at the time, because of the COVID virus, at the time we had capacity both in our facilities and also with our people. So it was a great opportunity for us. So like we were delighted with it, and we kind of moved on from there. We got to learn the process, and so we project managed the whole project from the time we came into the airport, as regards the shipping of the equipment down to our facility. We had a company called Oxygen Care that set up in our facility as well, and also the HSE was set up in our facility as part of the calibration and testing of the equipment.
So what does that look like for a business, for a production facility? When you completely flip, you repurpose the use of your manufacturing. I suppose from a business point of view and from a human point of view, your people had to literally jump 180.
Yeah, but we spoke to the team at the time, and everybody was delighted to get the opportunity, and the response was actually fantastic. I was even surprised myself. But everybody saw it as being very valuable and a need at the time, so we had no problem getting volunteers. And we at one part of the process, we actually had to design a transport mode for the ventilators. Um, so we actually got some pallets, and we developed a frame around them. And 2 of the guys that were actually developing the frames were senior managers. They were carpenters one time. So they brought in their saws and started working through this and building frames around the pallet, which was incredible. But even the people that were actually building the unit and reassembling it, they were all happy, they were all enthusiastic. There was a great buzz in the floor when this was going on, and they had great interaction with the Oxygen Care guys and the HSE at the time. We used to have lunch together, and we had meetings together, and so there was a great buzz there, and they had a great process going between the 2 of them as regards the throughput time and everything else, and a great understanding. So it was a fantastic experience, and all the lads all spoke very highly of it afterwards, and they were thrilled to be able to contribite.
You
Fantastic.
probably couldn't pay any amount of money for a team building exercise as effective as that.
Oh no, not from our side anyway. It was great to see everybody out there. Everybody was like, our engineers were out there, the operators were there, all working together. It was fantastic to see it, and as I said, the enthusiasm was brilliant.
And when you say you have a few good people, you certainly do. You employ 450 people now?
Yeah, close to that. Yeah,
That's pretty amazing. How many of those are in Cork?
there's about 170 in Ireland in
Okay.
total. Like we do have,
So
yeah, we have a facility in Dublin as well, in Tala.
I'm sorry about that. I know you're very proud of your Cork footprint down
Well,
there. So,
we have time for
so
the dubs.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. And I suppose to go firstly to launch a business in the recession and to grow at that extraordinary rate into a team of 450 people. What I suppose what are the characteristics of the team, and how do you, as a leader, create the right culture?
Well, it's important to have good people around you. And I was very lucky that I got very good people at the very start. And again, like Enterprise Ireland was a big help, both from a mentoring point of view, but also like that they had very good grants for key men. So I was able to go out there and get a higher caliber of person than I would have been able to afford at the time. And they pay half the wage for a year. So that was a big help as well, So I was able to go out there and get some very good people, and they're still with me as we speak today. So that
See,
was a
I
big help.
think it's funny that you use the word luck. I'm personally fascinated by the concept of luck, and I think there's more to it than that. I think you play a huge part in your own luck. How you say you found good people, you were lucky enough to find good people. Some of that was your sense of who the right people are. How do you even begin to approach that process? Because it's true that in business, getting the right people around you is everything. Um, what is your philosophy for making sure that those people are right for you and for Wisetek?
Well, a lot of it is gut feel, that you're comfortable with a person, and I suppose if you want to break it down, like would I go for a pint with this person? That's a lot of it. So like, I think you kind of get good at it after a while. You know what your culture is. If they're of faith, and we encourage as much as we can into integrating, talking to people, and like the lean manufacturer is a big help because you work in teams and people work in teams. So, and a lot of the senior managers we have now are people that actually came in as operators, and they've worked their way up through the through our systems, and they're now senior managers, and they're very good, and they're big help to the organization. So I see that as being a
Talking to
big help.
you, Yeah, and talking to you before the break, I mentioned the word efficiency. I know you have a very particular affinity to hard data, the facts. That gut is one thing, but the facts are another. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, we'll be very data driven, like show me the data, because everybody has an opinion. Whether it's the right one or not, you don't know, but data doesn't lie. If you have data, it helps you make a decision. Sometimes you have to make a decision, quickly from the gut and all that, but if you have data, it just makes it a lot easier and a lot more reliable. So we would run data, we'd run KPIs, which are key performance indicators. Like we run Thailand Fitness, we run Thailand through KPIs. So we actually know what's happening there on a daily basis. We don't have any expats out there. So we trust them to get on with their job, and we can see through the KPIs what's actually happening over there. So it makes sense, and it works. You can
And
see things before they really happen if you have the correct data. It's a bit like analytics. So you can determine what's going to happen in a couple of months' time based on the data that you do have. So I would be an advocate of data-driven
And
business.
it's a really interesting point, because in the changing world that we're in right now, when people are going to be working from home, and I'll talk about that and your role in setting people up to work from home in a minute. But our ability to manage efficient teams is really down to that data and what people are required to do, and what they are actually doing.
Oh, it is a course. The more data you have, and as I said, like even as productivity, capacity, what's selling, what isn't selling, all that kind of, it's all valuable information if you're doing 5-year strategy plans, or all like it all feeds into that. So like it makes it more reliable. It makes it easier for us to make decisions going forward. Like we've done acquisitions in the US, and so we felt we were missing a part of our process, which was the low end, the laptops and desktops. So we actually did an acquisition to close that. So that kind of activity made a big difference to our organization. So like we can do everything now from iPads all the way to data centers through the acquisition, but also using the data that we have from our experience gone back along. So it makes total sense.
And these new opportunities around working from home, what does that mean for Wisetek in a sort of a revised working environment going forward?
Well, there's a lot of the equipment that we get in is laptops. So there was a big demand for laptops because of people working from home, and again, people can't afford new laptops at the time. So a lot of companies had just desktops, so they were working with desktops, so they needed laptops. So we sold a lot of them into the used market that's out there. So a lot of companies that did decide to work from home actually bought a lot of equipment. We ran out of equipment very quickly, but I think
And what's the harvesting process then? Where do you find the raw materials?
Well, it comes back from companies. Like a lot of companies would refresh every 3 years. So they did, due to new equipment coming out, due to connectivity, due to less power in the new systems, more efficiency, better to use the apps that they're using. So the bigger companies, they refresh, they give it back to us. So we do the data sanitization and we put it back into the marketplace through e-commerce, and that's basically it. So
And
it's
so
a
the
circular economy, is
harvesting,
what it is.
yeah, the harvesting is B2C, and the resale is both B2C and B2B.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's if there's
Okay.
markets there. If there's no markets there, then it goes down the refining route. But also the same with data centers. Like when we take their equipment back, the bigger guys, the hyperscale, like they refresh every 2 to 3 years as well. But there's data centers out there that are tier 4 data centers are quite happy to take something that's 4 years old and just use it for either for redundancy or they use it for their own business because they don't need the connectivity or the power that the less power that the bigger guys would use. So again, it makes
And I
total sense.
suppose domestically, we're now looking at a serious bottleneck of devices in family homes where, two or one parent might be working from home, and kids are looking for devices to follow their work, their schoolwork remotely. I mean, I think it's, only last night the government announced a 10 million fund to support schools to buy devices or to uh, borrow devices from the state to support that remote schoolwork. Is there an opportunity for you in that as well?
Well, there is, of course, when its lifetime is up and they want to refresh, then that's where we come in. So we'd love to be able to take it back and refresh it and either send it to the developing countries or send it down for refining. So like we see that as being a big opportunity, certainly. Like, and we think we see a lot more of that, particularly around laptops coming back. Because
But even supplying them into the education system, is that something you
well,
could
it is,
look
of
at?
course, if they're happy to take something that's 2 years old or even rent. Like we're starting to rent now as well because we think there'll be a bigger market there for that. So like
Yeah.
if companies want to rent or individuals want to rent off of us, that's an area that we're starting to look at, and we think that's
Because
the
I
area
know
going
I
forward.
know one principal was on the news last night saying that when you carve up the available allocation of
Yes.
funding, you're looking at probably 100 quid per child. So that's certainly not going to buy a brand new box fresh
Yeah.
laptop. So I think we have to look at how we can create an efficiency around that. But I think you're so far from at the end of the Wisetek journey. I get the impression that you're only firing up on all cylinders now. What does the future? You mentioned 5-year strategies. What does the future look like, do you think?
Yeah. Well, the way we see it is that Europe is fairly mature because they had we for a long time, and you have GDPR now. So that's a fairly mature market. But the States is just starting to get there. So like the GDPR, I think it was just introduced recently in California. There's other states starting to look at it. So like what they had, the model in the States used to be kind of local, small shops used to look after the equipment. So they're kind of struggling at this stage because like larger companies are looking for a complete solution. So we actually do the data sanitization. We have mobile. We've 9 trucks in the States that actually drive into their facilities and they'll do all the data destruction on site. We will barcode equipment on site, so we have records of it straight away that we've got the equipment. So companies are looking for more traceability. They're looking to make sure that their brands are protected, the information is not getting out there, but also that there's a financial gain for them, that when we sell it back into the e-commerce market, that they get a percentage of the profits out of that. So it's starting to make total sense, and they're starting to see that. But there's not too many big companies out there actually doing this. And
well, that's what I was going to ask you about the competitive landscape. It looks like you're in completely blue ocean with this.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of mid-sized companies there. There's no real big. There's some big, reasonably sized players out there, but it's a bit fragmented at the moment. And I said there's a new enough industry, and it will consolidate in a couple of years. There's no doubt about that. So, like, we want to make sure that.
And what will that look like?
Well, I think you'll get a couple of big companies will come forward and either through partnerships, amalgamations, or venture capitalists will come in, and I think they'll buy up some of the mid-sized companies and make one couple of big companies there that'll provide the global services. So I think that'll happen in a few years.
And are you an acquisition, or are you top dog?
No, at the moment we're just concentrating on growing the business. As I said, there's a lot of opportunity there. We will probably look at some more acquisitions. We think that's the route to market. And you can get companies reasonably cheap in the US at the moment, so we'll certainly be looking at that. We probably will look at some investors if they're willing to go the journey with us. But yeah, and that's really what we're looking at the moment is growth and being able to manage that growth.
Speaking to you for the last while, as I have been, I'm trying to pin down, does your growth in the next 5 years look like more hubs, more footprint, or is it in your head about responding to trends and diversification?
It's all of the above. It's important that, like, we spend a lot of money on like, we've our own software people that develop portals for us so we can manage it, the equipment. We can give people reports on the equipment, the gas, the amount of metals and plastics and all that kind of stuff that they're generating, and which is important nowadays for the Environmental Protection Authority looks for this kind of information. So we spend a lot of time on portals, managing the equipment. We spend a lot of time looking at different areas, the different strategies as regards. We reckon now there's going to be a lot of desktops in the marketplace because everybody's bought laptops. So when they go back into work, there's going to be desktops there. So, like, we need to come up with a strategy of how we're going to manage all these desktops that are coming back. So we're constantly looking at that. So it's numerous things. So it's just the one thing. There's a lot happening in this area that we're constantly looking at. We talk to the customers a lot to see what the voice of the customer. It's what they're looking for, what they would like to have in the future. So it all ties into our strategy.
And that's key, really, isn't it? You can't make these decisions without understanding the pain points of your own customers.
Oh, well, the customer is key. What they want from a global perspective, what they want from the GDPR is very important. Because, like, and sustainability, of course, is a big thing nowadays as well. And companies are starting to look at the whole circular economy as regards reuse as well. So, like, companies are starting to design product now for reuse because they understand there's a secondary market out there. So, like, their engineers are starting to work on that so that they're producing product that before they were kind of producing product knowing that it was going to be thrown away and the next lot comes along. Now they know there's big markets out there for secondary equipment, so they're starting to redesign for that. And they see big markets in this area, so that's a big.
And you're working closely with the big players, with Apple and Dell and all the big guys as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of big companies in our portfolio. Yes,
there's no doubt that as a leader in an organization, you are fueled by the mood and the team and the culture of what you've created. But at the same time, I think, being a CEO is a lonely station. And I know you've been through the EY Entrepreneur of the Year program and are an active alumni. How much does it help you to have the support of other members?
But it is great. It's like I've been to most of the trips for the last couple of years since I actually was on the program. I've some great friends got out of it, and I find I can ring people and they're willing to respond, and it's very candid. You look for pertinent questions that you can't really ask within your own organization, that you can talk to a fellow CEO, and you get very direct and, as I say, candid response from these people, which is absolutely fabulous. And the trips every year are great because, again, you get to talk, offline again with people, and you learn to hear about their issues and problems in their business. You can relate to your own issues and how they solve them and all that. So it is it's a great depository for knowledge and information. There is actually WhatsApp out there, and there's some very good information coming through that the whole time that you find pertinent to your own business, and it's invaluable in
probably a customer pipeline as well, Sean, huh?
What is, yeah. There's quite a lot of them are customers of ours, yeah, absolutely. And I hope that there'll be more.
Fantastic. Just before we finish up, Sean, I'd love to ask you about any advice that you might have in terms of future landscape, what the potential scenarios are for business globally in the light of COVID, and how this will change the way that we work.
I suppose it's not going to be the same. So that there is going to, unfortunately, some companies probably won't survive because things have changed and it'll take a while for it to recover. I think in our situation, our business, we haven't lost any customers. They're just waiting to get back into business. So I think we should be okay, and we'd expect probably to get a lot more equipment back because people have upgraded, their networks and upgraded a lot of their data centers to be able to cope with the capacity that people have tied up now with working from home and all that. So we'd see that as being an opportunity in our case, but I think that there will be a lot of disruption out there. So we're watching it, and we're developing our strategies around that to make sure that we can
watching and ready, Sean, I think is what
absolutely.
You are.
Absolutely.
Sean, absolutely a pleasure to talk to you. A very low-key global leader in your field. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening and watching Architects of Business, made in partnership with EY Entrepreneur of the Year. Thanks to the entire team at JOE, and of course to today's entrepreneur, Sean Sheehan. If you haven't already done so, please do click subscribe to get a brand new episode of the show into your feed every 2 weeks for free. See you later.